And welcome everyone to another Logan Community Starcraft event. This is the first round of the Starcraft 2 for Life Silver and Bronze League tournament. Here in the bottom left-hand corner we have our blue Terran player Jasher. In the top right-hand corner we have the green Terran player Mouse. So this is the first round of the tournament. This is a double elimination, but best of one tournament, so expecting to see a lot of exciting play. Best of ones, I'm really hoping, lead to a lot of really interesting cheesy games. Not that cheese is the best, but you see a lot of crazy things in the lower numbers, whereas the larger number of games in the set generally see a lot more standard play. However, things can go any which way no matter what, and that's what I like so much about StarCraft. So over here we see that Jasher is got a little bit of a atypical build. Remember, these are not tip-top Masters and Grandmasters players, but everyone here loves to play the game just as much as the next person. We do have Mouse going with a forward supply depot. It's going to wall off. It's queuing up that second supply depot. And back here, Jasher tucked his supply depot a little bit farther back behind, but is throwing his barracks much closer to the front. So they're both continuing to produce. It's very exciting, very exciting. So just going to take a second to talk about the map. This is Xel'Naga Caverns. At one point in time, this was probably the most frequently played map in all of StarCraft 2. It has a narrow choke, but it's got a little bit of an area where if units do get up the ramp, you can get attacked from the low ground quite effectively here. The base is fairly accessible from things like Reapers and Colossi and drops, and there's a big area around the back that could be utilized for many different things. I also want to point out that these areas right here are the choke points. These are what make the natural relatively easy to hold. There are these destructible rocks back here and these debris or sticks, obstructed vision fields, which people can use to come do sneak attacks. But generally, it's pretty constricted, so it's pretty easy to defend. Also, I'd like to point out that it's impossible to get a third that's anywhere near your base without first taking out some destructible rocks. So this is actually, it's an older StarCraft map, and it's a little bit interesting in comparison to some of the newer ones, but also notice the watchtowers with the high ground right next to them. It's a little bit older, but it's still an excellent map. It's a classic. And I would like to point out that this is a Wings of Liberty tournament, but Jasher is playing under the Starter Edition account. And because we're playing with the Starter Edition, this is actually Heart of the Swarm game, which we didn't find out till halfway through the game. You notice that this barracks can build Reapers immediately without anything else. That's definitely not a Wings of Liberty thing. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes, especially because neither of these players have played Heart of the Swarm at all. So we do have Mouse up here going for a fast missile turret, hoping to make sure to get some detection near the front of the base. You never want some of those cloaked ghosts to sneak their way in. In terms of the production, Mouse has been macroing quite a bit better, actually. They're both floating a bit of money, nothing too bad though, but Mouse is ahead in workers by 3. And Jasher back here, in contrast, is he's got a lower worker count and is now just getting a few more things started. I think they both have orbital commands. Mouse just scanned, saw that there was exactly just an engineering bay here. Jasher throwing down a factory. Siege tanks, generally the unit that gets produced out of factories. Very interesting to see that there's a low ground wall off. Remember we were saying before, this bunker placement is a little bit vulnerable, or this area of the base is a little bit vulnerable if units get up the ramp, because this actually lets them have a longer attack range. They can attack units much farther away from the ramp, which seems like a good idea. However, when units are coming up the ramp and give vision, all of a sudden there's a nice concave here for enemy units to focus this down. That would generally be a problem. However, Jasher electing to wall off at the bottom of his ramp actually solves that problem. So now these supply depots, they're a little bit vulnerable, but from attacks that are right here, he's got it covered. We have another barracks going down for both players. We do have upgrades going down for Mouse. We have 2 Where's the other eBay? Ah, it's combat shield. My mistake. So we have combat shield going down. We have +1 weapons going down. Almost done, actually. This should give Mouse's Marines a big advantage over Jasher's. So we have another bunker going down here. He's really trying to make sure that nothing can get up this ramp. And he's looking at this and really debating whether or not he'd like to use any upgrades. And there he goes, going for the Neo Steel frame. That is so you can have 6 units in a bunker instead of 4. It's quite a good upgrade, actually, especially if you're very defensively minded. Taking a look, the blistering 22 to 16 APM. We'll actually see that that goes up quite a bit throughout this game. I watched this one live, but was not able to cast this one, so it's going to be interesting to delve a little bit more deeply into this game and what exactly happened. This is interesting supply depot placement. They're not actually covered by any units that are up here. The units would have to come down to the low ground to defend them. And if you get an expansion and you come and play SimCity with stuff, they're pretty well protected, but they're not necessarily being extremely useful. So we do have another command center going down for Jasher. He's got the long-term focus in mind. He is still down in the harvester count, but only by 1, so he's been catching up. The army size, we do see that Mouse is quite a bit larger. It's a little bit ironic, I guess, the Mouse being the larger. Some heavy queuing of the units. It's a little bit less than ideal, but it'll totally work, and the play is actually quite even from both of these players. We are mining gas out of both Vespian geysers. It's pretty early. Also, notice this is kind of gutsy, taking the command center on the low ground without any scout. Because once again, all they have is information about the base from a scan, and actually Jasher has no idea. Luckily, we know this is a 1v1 map. He knows that Mouse needs to be in this area of the map, just doesn't necessarily know where they are at this point. So, production-wise, everything's still going just fine. Everyone's continuing to macro. Jasher is continuing to produce SCVs. Mouse has apparently decided that workforce is completely fine. No need. Everyone basically gets their own mineral patch. That's ideal working conditions. I wouldn't like sharing my office with 3 other SCVs either. And it looks like they'll be taking advantage of an earlier expansion. So even though the worker count is a little bit lower, having an additional command center is always a good thing. It'll be able to double produce. This is going to be morphing into a planetary fortress. Will make it very difficult for all of these units to attack. However, right now it's looking like Jasher is quite content sitting on his heels and continuing to macro up. The supply counts are now just dead even, so the game is actually quite even. Where did all the money go for Mouse? Hellions, 5 of them. That's where it went. So just notice that there's quite low on money. She does have a lot of energy for mules that she could utilize. We'll see what happens with that. Notice that the Neo Steel bunkers, they look quite a bit cooler. They have the same hit points though. Only in the single player do you get extra free hit points. That'd be a sweet upgrade though. Love to see that imbalance come to the multiplayer. It'd be quite entertaining. This armory has been built. It's not really been utilized. Also, like to point out once again, this is Heart of the Swarm because it's the trial edition that Jasher is playing on. Jasher is now a little bit down on the on the overall army count, the unit count, income. He does have quite a bit more workers. However, now Mouse has decided to start worker production again as well, having increased their worker count by 2 since the last time that we have checked. And also remember, the army size is substantially larger from Mouse. So even though it's down in workers, the army is substantially larger. She's been producing pretty much non-stop out of most of these buildings. She is a little bit supply blocked right now, but it looks like she's going to work on that one way or the other. We have the force moving out. Control group, go here. The faster Hellions and Reapers, of course, getting way ahead of the slower Marauders. And this command center is going to be a planetary fortress. This will be difficult to assault as well. Oh, those 2 Reapers, they did successfully get one SCV. Okay, all the units coming in. They're now focusing down the empty bunker. Oh no, this is a terrible blunder. This siege tank here getting a lot more attacks off than it should have. The units here from Jasher are simply not able to withstand. However, this is a planetary fortress, and attacking into them is always a bad idea with bio. Look how fast the army's evaporating. Mouse really should pull back here. Save. Look at those poor Marines. It looks like, however, Jasher's electing not to repair, saying, "Don't worry, guys, I got this." And the one hero Marauder says goodbye to his buddies. He says, "Don't worry, guys, I got this." So now Jasher is back in his base. He's feeling very defensive. It would be suicide at this point to attack into these two bunkers, and the siege tank, the one surviving Marauder, saying, "Okay, guys, I gotta go back and get some more buddies." The interesting thing about this trade, though, was that was very... that was a lot of units that were lost for Mouse, and a lot of infrastructure, aka just a planetary fortress and a refinery, and a few units that were lost by Jasher. So the army size, you actually see Jasher way far ahead, but because he doesn't have another expansion, it all kind of comes out as a wash. Jasher now deciding he needs more defense by this potential future command center. It's going to throw down a bunker here, make sure that if anything comes right here, he'll be ready. We do have Mouse continuing to macro up, building all those supply depots, doesn't want to get supply blocked. Going with some Thors. Thors are a big tanky unit. Surprisingly, they're not a tank, but they actually do really well against siege tanks, even though they're armored. When they're in the army composition with bio, they're such large units, like just physical size. Look how big they are compared to Marauders. He's so fat he can't actually get out of the base until he lowers this depot. But Marauder, the Thors actually absorb splash damage from siege tanks, which is actually quite useful. So yeah, here she goes. Let's get... Come on, there we go. Perfect, we got it. So the army sizes are just about equal. Jasher is still a little bit uncertain about expanding to his natural, although he's preemptively surrounding it with bunkers, which means it should be quite secure. Income-wise, remember, the worker count's still the same. Now, Mouse noticing that, I could probably use a few more workers here. This is looking a little thin. Once again, though, everyone getting their own worker patch, I'd be all for that. However, now we're seeing a little bit more worker saturation, continued production, so she is catching up in the worker count, and the armor, the upgrades. Going ahead with +2 weapons. So infantry will continue to get stronger. We do have Jasher throwing down that command center again. And these siege tanks are actually in a little bit of a dangerous spot. I mean, given this is the choke area, this is a great place to make sure that you can siege and get. However, tanks work best when they're behind. They're artillery. They're not frontline fighting units. Because remember, the damage from siege tanks actually comes almost entirely from the splash damage. Single target damage is fine, but against clumped units they do very well just because of the high splash damage. So it'll be interesting to see if this works out. He does have 2 siege tanks, one that can reach this whole choke, and the other one that, if the units decide to stand right here, will be able to take down. With all these bunkers, though, this looks like this could be a very dangerous attack for Mouse. We do have another siege tank sieging up right before the Marines. Everyone just running straight in. What Mouse really needs to do is walk in, get up close. Instead, these Marines are they're just getting shelled from the siege tank back here. The medevac is helping out quite a bit. He just needs to pull this way. However, Jasher doing the job for her, bringing the siege tank closer, and it looks like this attack is going to go quite well for Mouse. The unit's just rallying in. It looks like she's trying to focus down the planetary fortress instead of just taking all the damage from all of these bio units. Now finally the planetary fortress is gone and Jasher is forced to retreat. It looks like Mouse is going to be able to attack right here. However, walking right up this choke, it's going to be very difficult because both of these bunkers are able to protect just the front line of units are attacking. The back is not actually engaging at the same time. They are now just barely doing that. However, with the DPS that's up here, I don't see how in the world Jasher will be able to, or Mouse will be able to take this attack. So it looks like, although Mouse did quite a bit of damage, took out another planetary fortress that was morphing in. It looks like Jasher is able to regain his foothold, is able to stabilize. Interestingly enough, he decides not to use either add-ons that he was currently or previously using. It's fine. They're there just in case. We'd rather build Marines one at a time. It's fine. We got this. And like we said, this bunker back here, remember how it was going to just defend from back here? Because of the extra range it gave, it actually, there was this really interesting moment where Mouse was standing right here and was within range of 3 bunkers. So it's kind of like this perfect triangle of death. However, the infrastructure for Jasher was hurt a little bit. Once again, another command center that was taken out, lost a few tanks, lost some Marines. The army size is still in Jasher's favor, mostly because of the number of Marines that were protected successfully inside of these bunkers, and the siege tank that was making sure nothing landed right here. It's doing a good job at that. And now we have Mouse continuing to build. We, still a little bit low on workers, but they're relatively even, which makes the game interesting to watch. Mouse deciding that air superiority is always a good idea. Let's build some Vikings. In the unit tab, there's not actually any air units for Jasher yet, but he could build them by the time the next attack happens. Also, these things are glowing and make this this Marauder glow. It's kind of weird. So anyway, continuing on, we have looks like all the workers pretty much got pulled over here, deciding we need more gas. Let's get more of that. Continuing to produce, doing pretty well at macro actually, continuing with those upgrades. She has +2 weapons, +1 armor, whereas Jasher's elected to make his buildings very strong. These bunkers are actually, they have +2 armor, believe it or not, and planetary fortresses will now have 5 armor, which is actually quite substantial. However, it looks like Jasher has recognized that this is the money area. You want to be able to defend this super well. Mouse actually surging way ahead in production. The army size is much larger at this point in time. Looks like she's been macroing, once again, quite a bit harder. So this next engagement will be very interesting to see. However, a lot of this, remember, these air units, there's still no air units for Jasher. So Vikings patrolling around just in case they can see anything to shoot. But as of right now, that's 10 supply in Viking that can't necessarily do anything. So the supply lead is pretty large, but this is a pretty protected area. Looks like Jasher decided, you know what, you keep destroying all my other command centers, I should just bring this one. It's lived this fine. It'll be fine, guys. So bringing all of the SCVs down here, the income for Jasher is actually exactly 0. Looks like Mouse was just thinking about attacking these rocks, and instead decided, no, let's go through the front door. That's worked okay the last 2 or 3 attacks. This is a large contingent of Marines. Now there's an air unit. The Vikings can now pay for themselves. The siege tanks just brutalized those first 2 Hellions. Now look at all the siege tanks able to fire here. All of these units are on move command. They're trying to walk straight through them. This is giving all these Marines a terrible, the terrible engagement for Mouse. All those Marines were blocking the path. The Mouse's army was trying to come back and attack each one of these individually, and were trying to just shove their way through these Marines. But remember, Marines are extremely high DPS. And then in the meantime, they were blocking the other units so the siege tanks could continue to wail away from the back. This siege tank has 4 kills, this one has 3 kills. That's a non-zero number. 2 kills, 2 kills, 2 kills, 2 kills. These Marines took out quite a few units here right at the very beginning. However, once again, Mouse's economy has not been touched. Still a few down on workers. Way down on the income tab because the power of mules. Love mules. Back in the game. Now he has income again. Looks like Mouse is going to decide to use some of these newfangled Heart of the Swarm units. Let's build some Hellbats. It's the same thing. It's interesting that you can elect to build them as whichever type you'd like. So that engagement, the units lost, tilted heavily in favor of Jasher having the much more cost-effective engagement, and that's because siege tanks are great units when they're not moving. And basically consider them a building for the general purposes. If you engage in the middle of the map and the siege tanks are not sieged, things will generally go quite poorly for you. So, even though tanks have higher DPS against a single target in tank mode, or in this mobile mode, when they're in siege mode, they actually have lower DPS but do much better against armies because of that splash damage I was talking about before. Looks like Jasher is deciding, yeah, siege tanks, those work, so let's get more of those. It's continuing to produce. It looks like he's got 3 factories now. Now with his influx of income, he's supply blocked himself, but this area is locked down. Nothing in here, guys. He's actually very gas limited. He needs to add some more workers here, and at this point this bunker is probably a little bit redundant. You could probably empty it, salvage the minerals, but the grand scheme of things, it's fine. Also, it's fine. We don't need to use all the add-ons. Plain barracks are fine. Looking at the upgrades, concussive shell. Already got concussive shell done. It looks like the only thing Mouse is not upgraded is stim. Everything else +2 is done for weapons, +1 for armor. Everyone's just kind of sitting back, remacroing up. Mouse actually now gaining in the worker lead. Just once again noticing that she could use a little bit more funds. She's been macroing pretty well, actually. There has been a little bit of queuing and things like that. It looks like she's generally been more supply capacity blocked rather than anything else like that. She has completely mined out 1 gas and is probably needing to start looking for another expansion. Same thing with Jasher, actually. He's completely mined out his main. Well, not completely. There's enough minerals for a command center in there if he needed them. However, he seems quite content in just taking this area. Putting a flag in the middle of it and saying mine. Looks like we do have Mouse throwing down an expansion. It's not ideally placed. Usually they go more like right here, but it's still a lot closer than all the way back here, especially through these destructible rocks. So, thinking ahead, planning long term, always good traits of a good player in StarCraft. The army sizes are continuing to grow. Mouse still hasn't quite recovered from the loss she took at that last engagement, so it'll be interesting to see how this next engagement goes. This area is just so heavily protected. It is good to see that siege tanks are not all clumped together. That's a very common mistake. What is? So Mouse does see, like this to me pretty clearly says I probably shouldn't attack there. Interesting to see what she decides to do. Okay. So the Hellions come in, get vaporized. The rest of the army comes in, taking out 1 siege tank, taking out the bunker. Excellent, taking out a whole bunch of Marines. However, this choke point, just look at the army. The unit's loss tab is just going so high in favor of Jasher. The good trade, they're definitely going to Jasher. Mouse plummeting from around 110 down to 42, where Jasher was at around 120 or 130, and is now is now back at 111. So army size, you can see it right there. Also, units killed, almost 3 times units killed, and it's really only been from these last few engagements. Jasher also successfully picked up one Marine. He's feeling quite safe in there, full health inside of there, hovering above his tank buddy with 10 kills. So, but again, no one's economy was hurt. So, resources have been lost. However, bases and infrastructure have basically remained untouched. So the game will soldier on. She is now mining. Mouse is now mining from this 3rd base. Jasher has not even started. So it'll be interesting to see. He's going to mine this out pretty quickly, especially with all the muling he's been doing. He's already mined out half the minerals from most of these, and about 2/3 from the others. However, the army supply is just huge. Mouse is starting to come back up. Interestingly enough, Jasher has not built anything for the last few minutes. he did decide to build a tech lab, 2 tech labs. It's fine. This one was clearly an outdated tech lab, so we decided to go with the new model because the new model has all of the same upgrades. So Mouse transferring over some more workers, deciding to go some Banshees. That's probably not a bad idea considering all of the tanks. If she decides to go Cloak, there's no detection here other than this orbital command, and he's been muling quite heavily, so Jasher would be in a little bit of trouble. The scan on the edge and the production of Banshees, I'd really like to see. This area, probably not the greatest idea to attack into. However, this area, what do we got now? Checking to see what's here. Yep, see all the, still there. Jasher now has continued to build up a little bit more. He is now producing still more tanks, and he's deciding that ghosts are awesome. Gonna build some more nukes. We have a nuclear freaking bomb being produced, and we also have personal cloaking. So hopefully, I always love a good TVT where we get to see some nuking. Really hope I get to see that. It's not often enough that you see that. It usually just turns into Tank Viking, which, while very entertaining, nukes falling from the sky makes everyone smile as long as it's all pretend. So, once again, things have stagnated a little bit here. Jasher is now committing a whole bunch to this ghost tech. It's producing. He has 2 nukes done, another one building, so we'll have 3 nukes prepared. Is 1 ghost. I like how the ghosts just sit there with their arm up. I got this, guys. I'm a ghost. I'm here. So, continuing to build. Is that another? No, it's still the same one. No, it's another nuke. So, where does that other... I thought he already had 3. Maybe he canceled it. It's possible that he canceled a nuke that was going on. In the income tab, we still see that Mouse has a little bit of a lead in workers over Jasher. The army size is actually rebuilt almost completely. So, remember, if you look at production, up until recently when Jasher decided to start going nukes, he's only gone up actually 16 supply since that last engagement where Mouse was down to 42. So Mouse has really brought herself back into this game simply through remembering to macro. Looks like scanning to see there's one lonely SCV mining. Looks like he's trying to invest. Where should I attack? So he scans all of the bases. Says, where am I going to attack? Let's see what he's got going on. We have these ghosts back here. It looks like he's getting ready to use some of these nukes. This should be quite entertaining. You can see they're selected right here. He's waiting to see exactly what she should do. He's moving out. So actually the army size is now back almost to equal. Well, army size is still not quite equal, but supply count's getting pretty close. Looking at the APM, remember at the beginning I said the APM would increase? This is actually amazing, considering both of these players I've played with before or seen play, and it's quite impressive. You know, at the beginning of the game they're starting at 8 or 9, you know, up to maybe 20 APM. They're really both playing above and beyond what they normally do. Great progress has been made by both of them in the last little while as they've been playing. Looks like, oh, the fusion core dance! Yeah, come on, you have to do the fusion core dance. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up day 9 and the fusion core dance. Totally looks like it. See it? He's having a party. Oh yeah. So the fusion core. Looks like Jasher's not going to have any of that. Hates fusion cores. Going to start shooting it with the ghost gun. It's not as bad as in Starcraft 1, where the ghost gun really appeared to do nothing to buildings or most units. The nuke going down. What does Mouse do to react? What does Mouse see? What does Mouse see? Sees the red dot. Excellent move. Moves that away. All the workers, though. Needs to pull the workers. It's fine. We still have the whole army, so everyone else is fine. Looks like another nuke going down. Jasher snuck in. Mouse can see him. There's nothing there to attack. This detector, this tower, put here at the very beginning of the game, mentioned what it was for, totally helped out. These 2 nukes, they did do some... flames. Ouch, dude. These nukes, this killed 2 SCVs and brought some buildings into orange life. Oh, another nuke. Okay, 1 more SCV. on top of the few that we lost here. Let's look at the worker killed count. Okay, so it has gone up. It used to be 6-0. But in reality, nothing. This refinery is going to go down, and other than the SCVs, which admittedly that's quite a big deal, not much was lost. This army being successfully retained, the army sizes are now much more equal. However, the income is quite a bit different. However, Mouse realizing that I have no economy other than this, so I should probably do something. However, remember, she scanned over here. We're really hoping to see some sort of an attack come from here. There's really not much to defend. There's a few Marines, but it would take quite a long time to get this many tanks. However, she's just walking straight in. Banshee's doing decent. They have really high DPS. However, they're not cloaked. If she'd researched cloaked, this would be a completely different battle. The battlecruiser here tanking a decent amount of damage, but with this number of Marines, it's just not going to be able to defeat anything. So sad. The walkie-talkie blew off right over there. It's a very important part of battlecruisers. You can just see that this choke area, you can see, is just covered, completely covered with siege tank fire. Now Jasher did go down in supply to some extent, but Mouse lost almost every single unit. I don't know how in the world she'll come back from this. She's now at a worker disadvantage. Actually only down by 6, so it's not the end of the world. But she's quite, well, she's still got a little bit of a bank. She really, let's get some more Marines. Let's get all those. Vikings, we should get some of those. We'll see what happens here. Remember, the Yamato cannon was researched, so she could come and snipe all of these siege tanks one at a time, and she would have the air superiority. She already has 1 Viking. Ooh, but we do have a nuke here from Jasher, finding that other juicy base. Where is it? Oh no, it's gonna come. It's gonna happen. Mouse, move them. Move the workers. Oh no. Oh. Okay, that's brutal. Another nuke going down. Wants to finish off this building with nothing but nuclear freaking bombs. All of the workers. Where is Mouse's? Where's her APM? She's just not noticing. He's scanning. She's looking for the ghost. Where is it? What is going on here? In the meantime, it's just going to come over here. These were all the remaining workers. We have 6 workers, so 28. Watch it come down. Bam! This ghost, feeling quite accomplished, took out an entire base by himself. 20 workers. This guy's a boss. Production, we still have a whole bunch more nukes going down. Some workers supervising that. He is getting completely mined out, though. Also, I'd like to point out the 7 workers on this on gas doesn't mine you anymore. Just throw it out there. Same with 6. You can only have 3. They added these numbers a while back. Made it a lot easier to figure out what you should be doing. So it looks like Mouse is attempting to build back up. She's really quite strapped for cash at this point. She is still mining some. One of these workers should be working. She is continuing to mine, but yeah, down to 35 minerals, half the supply. The APM though, did you see that? It was up at 82. 82 average APM. That's quite impressive for these players. It wasn't too long ago I saw lots of misclicks, and I think the average APM was somewhere around 17 for the previous games for at least one of these players. So this is really great strides. They're clearly playing to their utmost. This is a nail-biting game. Remember, even though it's not necessarily Masters or Grandmasters, playing against someone of your own skill level is always very exciting. This is why you don't see NBA players play with my nephew, who's 9. Wouldn't be exciting for either of them. But when you're playing someone at your own skill level, it's always great fun. It looks like Jasher's going to be looking for some additional bases, trying to make sure there's no secret bases. He wants to. I'm pretty sure he just wants to go nuke things. He's got 3 nukes done. Nuclear academies. Ghost academies. I guess it makes sense to call it a nuclear academy. Actually, Mouse surprisingly back up in this game. You know, the production off of, what is this? 8 workers? It's been quite impressive. Throwing down a Raven Ravens are excellent choices when you're super strapped for everything. Energy, you can use any point in time. They regenerate. It's quite awesome. However, point defense drones don't work against Marines, and I'm not entirely sure if they work against siege tanks, and I know they don't work against Hellbats, or Hellions, for that matter. So that would be interesting. A Hunter-Seeker missile could be a good option. One Hunter-Seeker missile here would kill basically all of these. And as soon as you eliminate these two almost dead Vikings, and this one here, and the Marines, you have free run of the place for any air units. Looks like this one Ghost is going to make sure it's going to take this out. This Ghost is running headlong into a Hellion. Hellions do plus damage to light. He just... Bam! The nuke. Surprisingly, some SCVs surviving. This fusion core is going to go down. He's just completely ignoring the Hellion, giving him quite a bit of damage. However, Hellions also take that bonus damage from Ghosts, so this Hellion's going to go down, which is sad. This nuke could have been prevented, but instead it's going to land and actually kill him with it. So he does pay for his brazen attack with his life. Ravens sadly have no attack and are light, so it would take additional damage from these units, meaning Ghosts, because Ghosts do they do 10, an additional plus 10 against light. However, the army size, it's a big difference. It's not as large as you may think. Another nuke going down. Viking trying to see if it could intercept the missile before it lands. I think it'll end up just sacrificing itself for a bird's eye view. Nuclear winter. Awesome. The Ghosts are now decloaked. They ran out of energy. However, there's really nothing here to defend at all. All of the units are right here because remember, there's no SCVs left. So this is it. There's this command center not even producing, and then this army right here. So the air army, ooh, siege tanks pummeling everything. These air units actually could do quite a bit. The Marines have not yet even reacted. However, you can see the Marines just simply getting wasted, especially not even coming all in at the same time. This really begs for a Seeker missile, but it looks like the Raven just getting pushed back and realizing that it can't fight back without using its special abilities. These siege tanks on the high ground just pummeling them in this little tiny kill zone. This is really bad engagement for Mouse. However, it looked like it was just the last ditch. Let's send everything over and see what we have left. It is now 3 supply to 113. These are both of the units, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Maybe with some crazy QXC-like, micro. You can micro that one medevac and Marine. Might be able to take out this whole side of the base. You never know. It looks like, however, there's probably not going to be any way for Mouse to come out of this. It's just we're waiting for the GG. The game was actually quite good. We saw, once again, things were pretty even with the early aggression from Mouse down here in the middle of the base, or the middle of the map. Even some few pushes up here, which were quite good. It was just seemed like we got stuck in a little bit of a rut trying to think, I must pummel down the front of this gate. And at this point, the unit count, there was 9 siege tanks parked right out front with supporting armies. And so it's just very unfeasible to attack that. But luckily, the macro is actually a little bit better for Mouse. So is the unit control, other than, suiciding into things. In general, I feel like the control is a little bit better. And it would be really nice to see in some of the future games against people to come and utilize some of the other things against them. So, for instance, siege tanks are awesome, but they just say, I want this area right here. Where they're not, you can do a lot. So you abuse this immobility and power of siege tanks and mech by abusing and utilizing the mobility and speed of Bio. So I would really like to have seen that. However, this was an excellent game, and we'll look forward to seeing Jasher in the winner's bracket moving on, see how this works, and Mouse, see how she fares in the loser's bracket. So once again, this was the first round of the SC24Life tournament for silver and bronze players. We're just casting this community event, because remember, it's not just masters and grandmasters people that like StarCraft. All of us lower people enjoy it as well. So once again, stay tuned. We're going to have some more games for you. So thank you.